I put this
true.
one together as really like what I see as some of these sort of threads that seems to come up and up again in his books. And I don't know if this is something you can confirm reading *Sapiens*. I mean, the intersubjectivity stuff is something that he keeps bringing up. And this is not a concept that he came up with himself. I think it's some guy named Husserl, a philosopher, that talked about the idea of basically the dimension of things that are true because everybody believes it's true. So something like currency, for instance, or laws, or social norms that you basically it's not something that exists as it doesn't have a simple space-time location,
No,
but
I see where you're going.
yeah.
It's something he brings up actually quite early in *Sapiens*, where he says that everything from money to religion is real because enough humans believe it's to be so, right?
Yeah, more or less. Let's just say that Harari does not do metaphysics at all.
No, I mean, this is like his version of metaphysics. Basically, this is how when he talks about intersubjectivity, you can just replace it with metaphysics in his writings, and it would still make sense. So when he talks about like the intersubjectivity of a society, he talks about like this is the metaphysic that they believe in, and the stuff that they take for granted 100%. And I mean, he does concede in a sense that this is completely necessary. Like, you can't have a society without intersubjectivity or metaphysics. In a sense, you need, just from a practical standpoint, a certain amount of constructions that exist that everybody just agrees on. That they don't have a space-time location. They can't be touched or felt. Or sensed in that way, but if you're going to organize large-scale human societies, this has to be there. Like if you're just going to rely on basic kinship, then it's impossible to organize anything beyond maybe 100 150 people.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yes. He does that. I didn't mean it in that way. I mean it that he doesn't do metaphysics in the way that he doesn't really approach the subject from that it actually holds any truth. It's just a constructivist lie that is necessary for society to function.
Yeah, it's very much he just says that humans do these things because they feel things. that's that's almost quoting him, I think.
Yes, and it's 100% utilitarian as well. That's how it's always presented. That this comes out of, I guess it's almost like Marxism or dialectical materialism. That the intersubjective kind of network of meaning has to come out of some practical need, whether it be like the cognitive revolution or the agricultural revolution or the industrial revolution. Like, these things just create new intersubjective layers that can function alongside with the new technology in the society. So, I mean, the animal care stuff we already talked about with the veganism there. Extreme generalizations is, of course, quite typical. I mean, he will at certain times actually use historical data, but like you both commented, he will just spend pages and pages going off on tangents and just babbling about stuff that he came up with, 30 minutes ago, uh, just generalizing how people feel and how they think and how ideologies work and so on.
Yeah, and then we come to back to the extreme generalization within those arguments.
Yeah,
And I think that is also a way, to one size fits all kind of approach. Um,
and I don't know if this is something that gets better in Homo Deus, but I can safely say that he usually goes on a bit of tangents, but maybe we'll get to it when we get to *Sapiens* as a book specifically. And the romanticizing of hunter gatherers is something that comes up a lot.
Do you have any input on that, Leo? Because I mean, I haven't read enough history to really comment on it. It seems like he looks at the utility or kind of the what society delivers to people as being kind of like a curve in a sense, like a sort of a shape of a horseshoe, where like the hunter gatherer society delivered a lot of actual happiness to people, and then with the agricultural revolution, it just goes downwards. It just gets worse, and the industrial revolution, and then it goes back up again, like with the
Yeah, with the advent of liberalism. Yeah, he kind of does that thing. So, but he does that. I would say from almost a Marxist materialist dialectic. It's only about that people were happy because they had more stuff and they had to work less.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and he's talking like, oh, the hunter gatherer had like a 3 hour work day, and it's like they didn't have work days, you stupid man.
So it's not even into the sort of noble savage stuff. It's more just, oh yeah, but they didn't have to do farm work, so of course they
Yeah,
were happy. It's a very strange argument.
if you scrape the surface a little, you get back into that the dialectic of of essentially maximizing pleasure. I think a lot of you will. This probably comes up in Homo Deus as well, that the utilitarian goal of humanity in some ways is to maximize pleasure and minimize, and in the future, I guess, completely eliminate the idea of suffering.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's even more exaggerated than you think. Really, he goes into the idea of like not only like say like the right to life and liberty and happiness. Like he talks about having the right to happiness, like period. Like the right to always be happy, basically, as sort of a project that humanity is going to pursue in the future. But in regards to like the hunter gatherer stuff, like the sort of pitch that he gives in Homo Deus about this stuff is that he says that oh, he makes it sound like you're going on like a permanent vacation. Basically, if you're a hunter gatherer, it's like one day you're in a canoe and you're going down the river, and the next day you're picking berries, and then you're hunting the wolf and so on. It's like and if you like he compares that to a factory worker in industrial England, where the only thing you're doing is like 12-hour work days and sleeping in dirt, basically. So it makes it sound quite pleasurable to be in one of these hunter gatherer tribes, just for the variety and the experience economy.
Yeah, something like that. He goes off on those small little tangents that well, has nothing to do with reality. It's more like his own personal construction, I think. Well, not only his. I mean, quite a lot of shit libs who buy into this kind of thing has this kind of idea that oh, there was a 4 hour work week when you were a mammoth hunter. It's like no, not really. I mean, what do you think you had? Like, okay, you went up at 8 in the morning, and okay, now we're gonna hunt mammoth for 4 hours, and then we go home. It's like, but that there come back to this that Walrus said earlier, the idea that he has that he is essentially gazing upon the entirety of human history with his very modern eyes.
Yeah.
And it lived from his ivory tower. Oh, this is exactly how it was. And I think that also comes from this underlying Marxist materialist dialectic of how you view things. Because I think that is essentially his fundamental socio-political position in the elimination of suffering and the maximization of pleasure until
Because I
everyone
am somewhat
walking
acquainted
over
with that
or something.
idea, like from the Marxist lens, because I mean, there's no capital accumulation in these hunter-gatherer societies, right? I mean, you just have to pick stuff up and eat it, and then move on. The idea of like the Ur-communism.
Yeah, but you have to remember that what do you call it, the what do you call it? Now my brain is standing still, stamping on the spot and tooting a small horn. God damn it! The thing where the workers take over the proletariat dictatorship. There we
Ceasing
go.
the means of
Yeah.
production.
Yeah. Well, essentially, when the proletariat become the great dictatorship and control everything.
Oh, okay. Yep.
That's essentially in the Marxist dialectic the transitory phase before you get real fully automated luxury
real
communism.
gay space communism. Yeah, it's the one
Yeah,
before the
stage,
utopia.
yeah, the stage after that, you know, the real idea is to get in a post economic world, you know, real fucking Star Trek stuff,
Yeah.
where you can essentially, you know, maximize pleasure and completely annihilate suffering from the human experience. That is essentially the goal. So if you take a look at not on the dialectic of how to get there, but rather realize that this is the end goal, and he is working from that end goal backwards in a sense.
Yes.
Then
That's very
you,
much how it feels.
yeah, then you can understand where he's coming from a bit easier. I think not to get hung up on the toolkit, so to say.
Oh, sorry, I clicked on the slide. Do we just want to go
Yeah,
ahead?
I mean, I just wanted to then mention, like with the hunter-gatherer stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, we did the drug stream where we do cover the other angle as well. I mean, you have the ur-communism angle toward the hunter-gatherer society, but there's also like this sort of feminist, matriarchal cope angle towards the hunter-gatherers, where they believe that like the patriarchal society basically is like the natural result of the agricultural revolution and the kind of the accumulation of stuff, basically.
Yeah.
Like I mean, with borders and private property and that stuff, that's what creates patriarchy, right? So when you have hunter-gatherer society, that's like basically gender equality, or in some cases actually matriarchy.
He touches on this in
And
Sapiens in the early chapters, I think, because he has like a passage about, the children belonging to the entire tribe and not
yeah,
just,
yeah.
you can't know how. It's a very strange passage where it's like, well, the women have sex with so many dudes that children basically become communal because no one knows who the real father is.
Yeah,
Which is a wild take to make without any sort of
yeah, and here
evidence.
Harari has never been out hunting, because if ever had, he
Exactly.
realized that probably uh, a tribe of hunter-gatherers would be extremely more patriarchal than a agrarian society with a small town.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Gr-
it would rather hypercharge the differences between masculine and feminine rather than abolish it. I mean that there we are to, but then we are back at fully automated luxury communism within some kind of Pleistocene Garden of Eden, which never existed, of course. Um, that's essentially what he is kind of working back from here. That everything was so abundant that people did not need to work, and all that dangerous megafauna that he mentions on and there was, of course, not so dangerous that you needed the male hunting party also needed for work like a 24/7 military force, just keeping everybody alive.